plenty of possibilities. You know, and I always knew that Suzuki Kawasaki would
You got a picture? No. Yeah, okay.
Okay, here we go.
Okay. Like that? Did you? This is Hollywood North.
It is. The paparazzi are here. You guys
At least there's no flashbulbs going off.
are more popular than Paris Hilton.
I was just going to say, is this what Paris Hilton feels like? In parallel, we don't need that right now.
Oh, okay. Yep, you're right.
If it doesn't crank it over, we'll put it in parallel.
Okay.
But it should.
Series, yeah, parallel we do okay, I think.
So I got to put some gas in.
I'd rather do it that way first than...
Yeah, because I don't want to blow a starter.
No, then we're buggered.
You don't want to be buggered.
Don't want to be buggered.
Okay, you go ahead.
Yeah. Maybe not everybody here understands the significance of this motorcycle, but in the USA, the most colorful era of racing was what they call the board track era. And started about 1908, and the last board track was torn out in 1922 because altogether too many people got killed doing this. But they had tracks that were made out of 2x6s laid on their edge, and they started off as like 8-mile bowls, and the last tracks, like Tacoma was the last one torn down. The Tacoma track was 2.5 miles long, banked all the way around. And they raced these. Bikes had no brakes, no clutch, and they were doing over 100 miles an hour in the teens on these things. And they used to place bets. They used to, and the last surviving board track racer died about 4 years ago. He was 104. I met him in Florida. He pulled up his shirt to show us all the scars from the slivers when you fell off. Some of the slivers would be a foot and a half long, eh? And they didn't wear gloves. They just wore like sweaters and sometimes leather football helmets, and that was it. And the big three motorcycle manufacturers in the USA were Harley Davidson, Indian, and Excelsior. Indian was the big one at the time. And they were always competing, and Indian came out with an 8-valve engine in 1912, 4 valves per cylinder, and they were unbeatable for a while. And then Harley Davidson came out with a better 8-valve engine in 1918, and Excelsior were kind of behind a little bit. So Ignat Schwinn, who's Schwinn bicycle fame, who owned Excelsior, he hired a real wizard, and he says, we have to build something that will beat those Indians and Harleys. So they developed this overhead cam engine, which was absolutely awesome. They took about 6 bikes. They took their entire team out to a track in Chicago. It was January 20th, 1920, and they were lapping that track at 20 miles an hour faster than anybody else had gone around it before. And Bob Perry, who was one of the, he was a real protege of Schwinn's, and Schwinn had paid his way through university and so on. He was kind of like a son to him. He went for an all-out lap, and he hit the wall, smashed his head open, and was killed instantly. And Schwinn was so devastated, he ordered all the bikes destroyed. So there are no survivors. So Paul and I were coming back from Davenport a couple of years ago. This guy, I mean, he's the one that made this thing. He says to me, I'd like to build a complete motorcycle. I said, well, you know, I said, there's 8-valve Harleys out there and 8-valve Indians. People are making those, and the overhead cam Cyclone would be an interesting one, but there's 9 of those out there. If you recreate that, you're not doing anything for history. You're just kind of compromising the ones that are still there. I think you ought to build an overhead cam Excelsior. And he said, oh, that sounds like a good idea. I didn't realize he was serious. So anyway, here we are 2 years later, and there's the Excelsior, just like it was. This will be the first time this noise has been heard since 1920.
Woo! Yeah! I'd just like to say that I know some people feel like I did this whole bike, but I've had an awful lot of help, and I want to thank all those people because I couldn't have made this possible without all that help. And I got half of them listed on the website, and the other half of them will be listed as soon as I have some time. So, and thanks for being here because this is a pretty special day if it runs. So switch on the gas and the oil's been on for a little bit. So. You can. How about if you sit on the bike? Do you want to sit?
Yeah, I'm with you.
Okay, I'll do it. Okay.
Oil on, Paul?
How loud is this going to be, Paul?
Right.
There's a little piece that fell off the car.
It's not a British bike, is it?
So Peter,
Yeah,
we fired it up.
yeah, worked well.
Oh no!
So I'll see if I'm brave enough to ride the thing sometime. Yeah, well, not today. Later.